My name is Louise Donaghy and I'm the Dean of York St John University London campus. Welcome to everybody here today. We are super proud and really delighted to have you all here, and we love our campus. So hopefully you'll get that impression whilst you spend the morning here. So in terms of the agenda, we have 10 to 15, myself, a quick kick-off and some opening remarks, followed by a keynote session from Dan in regards to spatial AI unleashing the future, followed by a panel discussion with some of my colleagues and some industry representatives, and also Dan, navigating the spatial AI landscape in higher education, which is something I'm really excited to talk about and learn more about as we get to grips with it. And then we'll have networking and demos. So demos of spatial AI products, and we have some headsets over there that you can all don and have a go and see what it feels like to be in that virtual world. So I will talk a little bit about our campus. As I say, we are super proud of our university and campus. So I'm not a techie, I'm a sociologist by background, but I'm really passionate and interested in technology, as we all have to be, as AI becomes such a really big part of our lives. I've worked in higher education for 20 years, I've worked in industry for 10 years, and I'm passionate about higher education and making education accessible to all, from people from all walks of life. And I really think that AI can really help do that even more so than we do currently. So our university, York St John, you may not have heard of it. We've actually been around for quite a long time, but we opened as a teaching college back in 1841 with a real focus on social justice. But we actually only became a university in 2006, so we're relatively new and we're also relatively small. So we have institutions that have 40,000 students, 10,000 staff, and we have more modest 10,000 students and also around 800 members of staff. So we're small, but we're ambitious, we're agile and we're innovative. And as an illustration of that, we set up the London campus back in 2018 over near Barbican in central London. When I joined in January 2020, they were around 7 members of staff and 140 students. We now have 2,000 students, so that's exponential growth in just 3 years, just over 3 years. We have around 100 members of staff. So when I joined, we were in £500,000 deficit. We're now in £22 million of profit. And one of the ways in which we did that is to capitalise on the situation that we were all facing in the pandemic, by utilising technology to be able to have more students than our physical space would allow. So technology is obviously incredibly important and a real sort of testament to our success here. So our academic courses, we've created them ourselves. We've launched 7 over the past 3 years. They're innovative, we apply research in a real world context, and we really focus on the student experience to produce graduates with the skills for tomorrow's jobs. We have courses in healthcare management, business management, computer and data science. And we're launching a data science master's in just a few weeks' time, led by Melinda, my colleague there. We also have really diverse students, as you would expect from a London-based campus. So we have students from all over the world, but predominantly West Africa and South Asia. And they come to us with a wealth of knowledge, experience, and also qualifications. We can have doctors and dentists in our audience, really experienced coders in our student audience. So we have a real strong intellectual culture here that is advanced by our fantastic staff, who are also diverse. They too represent our student body. They come from South Asia and West Africa, but from all over the world. So we have fantastic, diverse environment here. And many of them are thought leaders and pioneers in their field. So a little bit about us continued. So what we really pride ourselves on is our community, and I'm committed to creating a really fruitful community that draws people in from all walks of life. But as part of being a dean, I'm committed to creating a community that people can feel like they belong in. So as well as our research and our teaching and our academic expertise, we focus on developing people and individuals for all of our stakeholders. So we focus on a coaching community. So we coach all our members of staff so they can then provide coaching principles to our students through tutorials and also supervision. We recognise that everybody needs development both in their careers, but also as human beings and individuals. So we have a strong emphasis on developing a coaching culture. We also have fantastic expertise, and we mix together the disciplines in business and computer science to really enhance and expand knowledge, to make sure that it doesn't just sit on a dusty shelf, not really benefiting anybody, but actually it's the kind of knowledge that really benefits, supports societal development. And that all feeds into our executive education. So we run a variety of different courses for industry members, individuals or professionals and companies, whereby it can be bespoke and tailored to their needs. So all of our knowledge can be impactful to organisations. And our students' futures. It's really important, of course, that our graduates leave here with the skills that they need to be successful, both personally and also in their career. So we have a strong emphasis on enterprise and employability, and that's embedded throughout everything that we do. So it's not just for the students that are the most confident, that come from entrepreneurial backgrounds, but actually so every single student will leave here with an understanding of what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to be employable, and how they can be successful in their futures. We're also setting up a London advisory board. It's really important to us that we work with industry, that everything that we do is informed by industry, that we're not operating in a silo. So we're setting that up in October, and that will help us shape and form our strategy going forward. Our future, we have further expansion. So here we have 25,000 square foot. We've tripled our physical size over the 3 years. We're opening another floor in just a few weeks in this building, so doubling our physical footprint then. And we are creating a space to enable our students to take the classroom into a more creative space. So we'll have a maker space and also a virtual reality space where we'll be using all of our headsets. We're calling that the Makerverse. And we will really try to look to ways in which to take the curriculum into different sorts of environments. So our students can use different parts of their brain, not just sit there listening to a lecture. But does our future success depend on how we harness and embrace AI? I think it does, and I think it does for all of us. We're living in a VUCA world. What does VUCA mean? Well, it means it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex and ambiguous. It's constantly changing, and we as individuals, in the individual sense and also the collective sense, have to work together to be able to harness that. We're also facing lots of other challenges, from climate change through to political diversity, through the pandemic, which is a real illustration in terms of some of the challenges that we faced that we didn't see coming. But we adapted to that, and some of us did, relatively well out of it. But there are positives and negatives, so we need to make sure we protect our society. And we as educators and industry members need to collaborate to make sure all of the individuals are safe when they go into that AI space. So how do we regulate and safeguard our environment? Can AI be used to really combat climate change? Improve agricultural techniques? How do we, again, as educators, help our students innovate in our space to create those solutions? And also the future of work. We all know that jobs are changing. Jobs are becoming obsolete. There'll be new jobs that we have never heard of. How do we prepare our students for an unknown world? From my perspective, collaboration is key, and we definitely need to work together. So this is a great example of us today coming together to have those really important conversations. In terms of what we are doing now, well, we're enriching our community further and investing in the team, so they have the relevant expertise, and today will certainly help with that, and also the technology to navigate the VUCA world. We're also empowering staff. It was only on the news this morning that Akon, the musician, is joining a tech firm to enable other musicians to really understand, harness and embrace AI and not be scared of it. Because the people that understand it will see it as dangerous. So I have a big team who may see AI as dangerous. And there are students in the classroom that know more than the lecturers. This is not a situation we've had before. So how do I make sure our academics here are not scared, that they embrace it, they bring it into the classroom in a really positive way? We need to remain relevant, and hopefully things that we're doing today will help that. And it's really important that we continue to give students that experiential, real-world environment in their learning, because we all know as educators that's how they will learn. So we can have experiential in the classroom. How can it be experiential online? And I'm sure we'll talk about that today. I want to ensure that we, not just in this institution, but the UK and further afield, work together to create the entrepreneurs and leaders of the future to help us navigate all of the challenge in the VUCA world that we live in. So hosting events like today to facilitate the conversations we will hopefully have will hopefully be a right step in the right direction. So thank you for listening. I'm now going to hand over to Dan for his keynote session. So thank you.
Thank you so much. What an amazing introduction. And I must say, as a business guy, I've been doing this for 15 years. I run a NASDAQ logistic company. What you've done on the financial side is super impressive. So what we need to do now is to switch, if you don't mind, and let me just make sure that we go back to this. So your speech was amazing. So there are certain things that I may not remind me if I don't mention them, but afterwards, but a couple of remarks. I have 4 specific remarks. Our slogan, by the way, is knowledge is a human right. I graduated from Sweden. I got my 2 masters for free from Chalmers University of Technology. Actually, it's a British guy that formed that university back in the days. And also my PhD, although I never finished it, for free. So my kids are grown up in the US, and I pay them $70,000 per person per year, right? So it's a big disparity. So I want knowledge to be accessible, available, and affordable for everybody. So now you can talk about those things, or you can walk the talk. I'm 61. I've been on a tour since January, 36 countries, and I have another 24 between now and November. So UK was more of a thanks to you. We were not planning UK, but thanks to you, and I'm so glad that we came here. Now, what you're doing is amazing, right? And you have a chance to really change things. And the change comes not from, Imperial College, with all due respect, all the people there, but it comes from universities that are willing to take risks, right? So a couple of ideas just came to mind based on the speech. One is role play. So one thing that is able to do this from business, how do you conduct negotiation? How do you understand how to mirror things in negotiation techniques or board conflict? We can simulate all that with having Avatar that you can do a role play. And that's a big area that we can work together. We are now setting up 10 new influencers. We only have 45 million users. Our goal is to reach 1 billion as a counterweight of using AI for negative things, right? Because we know these things will be used for all the things that internet was used, from porn to weapons, etc. So how can we counter that? And that's the call I have. I was lucky enough to be young and retire at 37. I sold my company from Sweden and lived in the US for 27 years. So now I want to give back, and I want to do it, but you have to walk the talk. Now, you talk also about the dangers of AI, and you talked about the problem that we all face, because if I'm looking at faculty members over the world, they are looking the same. You'll have 10 to 20% that will be super excited, right? They will just run for this. So the only thing we have to do with them is teach them and so on. Then you have about 35% that are open but cautious. They are kind of interested, but they are a little bit afraid. And then what you do with them? You actually have to show them and empower them. And then you have another 35% that are actually afraid, and they are on the fence, right? They will not use this. So for them, they need to see how they're also afraid to lose their jobs, those other groups. And when they see that this actually will help them, empower them, and become masters, that helps. And then you always have the 10% that says, over my dead body. And we have to be gentle there. And there are people that actually said, I will never use the internet. I remember that. Okay, so let's set the show on the road with that. And the reason I'm doing this tour is that we are setting up centers across the world. We call them spatial artificial intelligence centers. We already have them in almost a presence in almost 80 countries at the moment. And the idea with this, we have funding, between 90% of the funding required to set them up. And obviously, I can't, that's my little pitch. I would love to engage with that discussion later on. But
Dan, can you share your sorry for interrupting, but we cannot see your screen here. Thank you.
I'm doing all the mistakes possible today. Thank you for that. So with that, no, I that's easy. I can do that. Okay, perfect. Now you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's
Thank you.
start with some statistics first. So on the spatial AI side, according to IBM and Goldman Sachs published a similar paper, in the next 3 years, 40% of the workforce needs to reskill. So that's a big number. In fact, if you look at the World Economic Forum, they say 75% of the workforce needs to be ramped up by 2027. So these are big, big numbers. And of course, if you're an education institution, that's a big opportunity. Someone will do this. Now, if you look at the US Air Force, there's US workforce, there's about $10 trillion economy. According to that, 40% will be disrupted. We talk about 2.5, 3, 4 trillion. So I'm an optimist. I'm not in the camp where that says that, we'll be destroyed and we're facing Terminator. But until we reach that abundance, and this curve is aimed to do that, to show in 10 years, everything's going to be fine. But the road from here to there is going to be bumpy. And our role is to make that transition smooth. Your role actually is to do the same. Now, if you just react, what's going to happen most likely is that you're going to lose the creatives. Everybody is a graphic designer. You lose a lot of those jobs. Then you're going to lose a lot of white-collar doctors, lawyers already started. And then it's going to go pretty nasty. And then we'll have a recovery. We don't want that, right? We want something like this, something smooth. And that requires proactive measures. And that's the key reasons that we're working with the center to help transition here, this process. Now, if we do it right, we're going to have a lot of benefits. When it comes to governments, and I see the UK government's putting a lot of emphasis on AI, which I think is the right thing. Job creation, it's not sure that you get the new jobs. It's pretty sure we're going to lose some of the old jobs, but you have to do other things to get the new jobs. Promote technological innovation, etc. So that's on governments. And academia, which is you, it's about future ready. How do we create this interdisciplinary, that's what you use the term, future ready curriculum? How do we enhance our reputation, right, as an institution? How do we increase research opportunities? And there are plenty. I hope we can talk about that. And of course, how do we ultimately improve the outcomes? And if you eventually land in a company, which we all have to do, is how do we make sure that there's a competitive edge, etc. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about E.ON other than one slide. I'll do it very quickly. So E.ON is a dinosaur. We've been around for 25 years, and I've been in business for 36, and I'm 61, right? So, but we are a reborn dinosaur, and this road, if you follow virtual reality, augmented reality, is a road littered with cadavers. 95% of our competitors have died at various occasions, or some are mortally wounded. And Meta was almost close to doing that when Metaverse, which was this fashionable word a year ago, became not so cool, right? But the good news is that finally, in my belief, and there is a reason for why it has such promise and why it hasn't succeeded. And I will touch on both of those. Now, some facts about E.ON, 25 years in the making, NASDAQ registered, market cap around $700 million currently. We have about 100 countries that are using our technology. We have a library that I believe is the world's largest in terms of extended reality, with approximately almost 9 million assets. So we got to talk about spatial AI, right? The first question is, what's spatial AI? I know AI, but what's spatial? So how many of you saw the speech from Apple CEO a month ago with Vision Pro? Raise a hand. Okay, quite a few. So for you that haven't seen it, Apple doesn't release products that often. So since 2017, in the closet, they developed this augmented reality device. And starting 2017, and then they just launched. It's called Vision Pro. With that, they came up with a new name. They call it spatial computing. It's actually not the new name. We used it for the last 20 years, but they didn't want to use metaverse. They didn't want to use extended reality, virtual reality, but it's the same thing. It's just, please note that Apple has never used the word artificial intelligence either, right? There's a culture there. Anyway, they are spot on, in my humble opinion. So this device, if you haven't seen it, try Google Vision Pro today. It's what I think the beginning of the next computing platform, okay? Which is spatial. So forget about, you know, when you are there, a grandfather by the fireplace, and your grandkids ask, Granddad, what did you do? I was seeing these old videos. You guys were looking at like little screens, and there was like YouTube videos, and everybody looked like a zombie walking with these little screens staring at airports. It's freakish. Yeah, it is freakish, right? It's as freakish when I had to stack my cards that had punch, when I had punch cards in order to get computers to react to my interface, right? When I started my career. So we will go spatial. Now, it will take some time. Let's be real. This device costs now $4,000 approximately. So it's not your normal device that you'll buy in a coffee break. But what we know about this is going to be cheaper, faster, better. Okay? So what's the value? Let's go back. What's the value of the, now I have to focus on my presentation here. So rather than me speaking about the value, what I'd like to do is to use PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they will speak about the value. And I see that my PowerPoint is now a bit tired. So what I'll do is I'll restart. And let's see here. It's interesting because PowerPoint is an invention from the 80s or the 90s, right? Hasn't coped with too many videos. So let's see here. I'll use this presentation, and hopefully that will work better. So what I'll use is PricewaterhouseCoopers telling us what are the key benefits of virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality. And this is actually a few years old. So I like it. It has to that, let's see here. Okay, let's go.
We have conducted a study on virtual reality learning. We found learners in VR required less time to learn. They had higher emotional connection to the content, higher confidence, and were less distracted during the training.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So the first question that comes into my mind is, if it's so good, how come nobody is using it? Or very few people are using it, right? I mean, it should be on everywhere. And the truth is that there are some problems, and I'll talk about the problems. But before I go, let's go to AI. So how many have used ChatGPT here? Everybody. Okay. I would be surprised if not. Now, there are some problems, and we're going to talk about problems with ChatGPT. Many problems, like from fake to plagiarism, etc. But there's a specific problem that we have identified. It's a brain in a jar. It doesn't know who you are, where you are, what you do. It's answering things in I mean, you can program it for specifics. So the first thing we did is, why don't we take out the genie out of the bottle and enable it? So it knows who you are, where you are, and it helps you to show you and tell you things about any topic in extended reality, and it helps to guide you and assist you in the real world. I haven't shown you that yet. I will show you that in a few minutes. So that's spatial AI, combining the most powerful technologies that I think there exist at the moment, spatial computing and artificial intelligence in one. And I think this is just a step on what we call embodiment. Embodiment when you have a robot that is there with you all the time. Okay, so now let's go back to the problems. What's the problems? So there's a number of problems. One of the first problems we identified, that was 5 years ago. What we used to do 5 years ago is what everybody's doing today, mostly in VR and AR. It's called the razor blade model. So they have by devices, and then they have someone program this in Unity, Unreal, or another game engine. The problem with that, it's difficult to use, right? Well, most people, 99% of people will never learn programming of these devices, right? So that means that we eliminate 99% of the population. Secondly, these devices, although they are great and we support them all, they are very few. So there's about 40 million devices compared with 7 billion people, right? Next problem that we find is the lack of content. There's not enough content. So if you ask about content today, it takes weeks to create this, right? If you use the traditional method. So Eon start tackling this problem. The first one was to create this huge library, right? So almost anything you ask, we have. And this library is increasing. And now, thanks to AI, we can do text to 3D, the beginning. You can scan it. You can get your CAD data, which means that you have a wealth of experiential environments. The second problem is, I call it KISS. Keep it simple. In America, we use another S. Keep it simple, stupid. Meaning that anyone, my mom, she's 84, she's actually, during the pandemic, did her cooking classes in this environment. Now, if she can do it, there's no excuse. Come on. Okay, so make it easy. Make content plentiful and make it agnostic. So today I have this, but in the afternoon, I'm going to use my Mac. Then I use my tablet. Then I use the HoloLens. Then I use the Vision Pro. Then I use the Oculus, right? So it doesn't matter. And also it's agnostic with respect to the question I received. What's virtual reality versus augmented reality versus metaverse, right? And I'm going to talk about that. Augmented reality, very simply put, is when things are enhanced in my physical reality. Virtual reality was the medical thing where I have this thing and I'm totally immersed in that space, right? If someone picks my pockets or takes my bag, I will not be aware of it. Mixed reality is when you do both, right? That's what Vision Pro doing. So let's say if I'm at Heathrow and I'm leaving for Turkey, which I actually will do tomorrow, and I want to experience this fantastic Machu Picchu, what I'll do is around me, I'll have a proximity sensor that says that if someone comes within this space, it will pop up. So I'm not, and then I can enjoy my virtual reality experience. Okay, so when we did this step, we called it Eon XR 5 years ago. We thought, okay, we solved the problem, but we were wrong because it's not enough to make it easy or make a lot of content. We then realized that other things are required, such as creating digital twins. So what does that mean? I take my phone and I walk into your lab. And in seconds, I create a replica, a digital replica of this environment, right? And then I start injecting knowledge in that digital environment, okay? And then I superimpose those things together, okay? So that's what we call merging XR. I'm sure you heard about digital twins, and we're gonna do that today. We're actually gonna inject some knowledge in objects that you will select. Okay, so then we thought, we're getting closer. But then during the pandemic, which actually was an interesting time for all of us, we then decided, why don't we connect people? So Manchester to London and London to Edinburgh, where we are in different locations. In fact, University of Glasgow is a good example. Half of their revenue came from, if I understand, or 40%, something like that, came from places like India or China. And they couldn't travel. So they wanted something experiential. So we developed the teleporting capability. This is actually the one when we only have half a body. Nowadays, as you could see, our avatars are full legs. So that's what happened in a couple of years. But the idea here is that I can be in different locations, or I can be in the same location and be in a facility, in a training. And if I don't have headsets, I can just enjoy. So I'm here in the lab, or and I can do a procedure training, and I can just use my phone. So teleport myself from here to any location in the world. Okay, so that's called spatial meetings. And now I come to your question called metaverse. What's metaverse? So metaverse is when you go from an object to a room to a whole city or a whole world. So we created something called Metaverse Builder. And the idea is to simply walk and talk. So I'm walking and talking, and I say, I want London here. I want, I don't know, Piccadilly Circus, and it's building things in front of my eyes. Okay, so by then we thought, okay, we have it all. But then we saw, wait a second, I start thinking about Harry Potter. And Harry Potter does magical things, right? We all know. You are the guys that came up with this. So in a virtual world, the metaverse, you need to have things interact. If I push the button, something happens. And that requires programming. Right? It's a really difficult thing. So what we did is we came up with a solution which we call touch and go. So in the power vested by me, there shall be fire, right? So it's generating things just by simply touching and telling what you want to do. Do a backflip, or so we use the power there to make it easy. Okay, so at that point we said, this is amazing, everybody's going to use it. Of course, we had pretty good increase, almost 800% in users. But then we realized one thing, that some teachers and professors are often overworked, in some countries underpaid, and after the COVID fed up with Zoom, right? So this was a potent potion combined all together. So we said they don't want to do content. They just actually want to run away from technology. So how can we empower them? And that's when we came up with this idea.
In today's fast-paced world, technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. But what if we could use technology to enhance the way that we learn, work, and play? Introducing Beyond Reality's AI assistant.
Hi, what do you want to learn about today?
So the idea is to not to let the AI do it, but empower it to do the heavy lifting, right? All the practical stuff, gather all the materials, all the videos, all the models, and then you control it still. You are in the power seat, okay? So that's what we did. And that led to this. And most of you saw the demo. I'll do the demo in the end because I'm already running out of time. I'm cautious of time. So what we did is, let me show you. We went first to create, and then we went for a guided experience. Actually, not. We went for a custom experience. You asked me to do something, right? So I did what you asked me. It was something with environment. And then I went for a guided experience, selected education. Within education, I selected something with medical. Within that, the system did show and tell. I didn't show language, so we've kept English. Everybody speaks English here. I could have selected something else. Then it generated a knowledge portal, which was a text, a voice, an image. We didn't actually show videos. We did have multiple objects. I downloaded the ventilator, if you recall. And we didn't show 360. We didn't do much assessment or guide and assist. We did select different personas. We didn't do any action commands. Action commands when you ask it for a specific task. Show me how to replace my tires, right? And it's actually going to enact that and do it, etc. What we did not do, and this is what I'm a little bit excited, is we didn't do explore. So now we're going to do explore. This is, you'll see why this is the one that I like most. So let's do that. I was watching, okay, let's see here. So explore is about your physical environment, creating persistently tracked geoposition knowledge injection in the physical world. So I think what you're seeing here is the very beginning of where AI is going. So here, you can all see this, right? Let me just get the volume going and turn on the volume here. Okay, and we're gonna click explore. And we're gonna place our avatar here.
Welcome to London. Did you know that the Tower of London is home to the crown jewels?
Oh, I did know that.
Please start by setting up a persistent anchor.
So it's asking us to, so now your university will be persistently tracked. I can delete it afterwards. But what that means is that we track the longitude, the latitude, and the altitude of this location. So let me just move around a little bit. Okay. So that means that with this anchor, I can now inject knowledge. Let's pretend this was a lab of some kind, right? So I take a picture, so anyone can just use their phone, come in this room, there will be a little warning. There is an anchor point. That means that this room is knowledge injected. So I'll save that. And now I can start my knowledge injection. So I'll pick something, and then you pick the second one, okay? So I want to pick something with respect to my computer. So I will take a picture of this. There's two ways of doing it. One is taking pictures, and the other one is just simply coming in a room and rotating. It's like you, and then the AI will pick up all the things. In this case, it picked up the fact that I am looking at, I took this MacBook Pro, right? So you can see that it says MacBook Pro. It also said what type of size it is. Okay. So now what's happening? It goes on a hunt. Any information I need about this specific item, how it works, what it does, how you maintain it, what's the graphic power in it, everything that I need in order to handle this activity. So now it's thinking, and it's probably, let's see, I just want to make sure that I don't have too many instances of stuff here. I'm doing always risky things. I'm using the beta version that will be released this weekend. So that's not the thing that a careful person will do. But I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I don't like risk, right? So yes, so that's what happened. Sorry for that, but I will give it another 30 seconds.
So can we do that to people?
No, you can, but we are not allowed. You can do it, but we don't want to get legally.
Welcome to
exposed.
London. Did you know that the Tower of London is home to the crown jewels?
Okay.
Please
so-
start by setting up
so
a
let's
persistent
do this,
anchor.
set persistent anchor here in the middle. Yeah, you can do. I mean, it's amazing. You'll see it in a second what he does, because I asked it to be Sherlock Holmes. So 2 weeks ago, I put it in my room. I let it wander for about 15 seconds. And then I asked, who's the guy that lives in this room? Describe me his personality. You're going to see what he said. So let's try again. And that's the last try. If it doesn't work, then we'll move on. But this should definitely work. So what's different about this versus just image recognition? You'll see in a second. I think it has to do with this. Okay. So now let's see. So what he's doing is finding everything around it, and he's going to give me the information. Now, I think we hit a snag there. Yeah, sorry for that, guy. No problem. We'll move on. Yeah, that's a good lesson not to. So what I'll do in the break after the presentation, I'll use the production version, not the beta version that I use now. And then it works for sure. By the way, everything I show you now, you can download for free. So you can download and try this after this presentation, okay? Now, if I have glasses, let's say I have a different project. I want to use my hands, right? So it's a big difference here. And you can see that in the demo sessions. That's one thing. If I want to do this in a different language, I select the
Combien de
language.
langues existent-il sur la planète?
Okay,
Il
merci.
existe plus de 7000 langues.
So you can select. If I want to use it on my desktop, I can actually, many people like the desktop, so I can do that. If I want to give it I do that, meaning that I will be able to say pump heart or move this object in a special way. So all that is possible to do in this environment. Now, if it's so wonderful, let's talk about problems. I'm Swedish, right? So we like to dwell on problems as an engineer. So first of all, one problem
Delve into a new era.
is that today, and they solved it a week ago, but until a week ago, if you use ChatGPT, you feed I won't say the enemy, but you feed the Americans with data. This American company scatters a lot of your data in AI, and basically you can leak information. That's why Samsung does allow their employees to use ChatGPT, right? Because they divulge secrets. So what we've done is we took a open language model, Llama 2 and a few others, so you can build your own AI that nobody has it. You can even download it to your own device. So that we call Eon Mind or Eon Peace of Mind, right? The second thing we do, and I'll demo it, is this.
In a world where time is a luxury and accuracy a necessity, Eon Train AI revolutionizes the way you train artificial intelligence.
So now the information we received about the topic that you selected was general information, right? But I can train it. I can just go to the desktop version and insert my PDF pages and train it on the specific topics. Information that may not be on the internet, right? So that's training. The other one is decision.
Welcome to the future of decision making and
Most problems here, I don't know about the role of schools, but one important role, if you are a business manager, is to make decisions. There's a saying that's better to take a bad decision than no decision, right? But how do you get AI to help you? So we develop a whole think tank, we call it Eon Think Tank, that helps you in the decision process.
you face. Imagine a chain of thought, prompted and guided by an intuitive avatar. A problem is stated, 3 unique solutions are proposed, the thought process is deepened, and finally the solutions are ranked.
So you get a point. So you actually, by doing that, you also improve up to 900% the language model by rating the solutions. etc. And this can be a very different solution. It can be not only whether I should repair something, but students' problems, lack of understanding, procrastination, motivation, lack of practical application, student problem like time management, financial constraints, bullying, pressuring, blue-collar issues like safety health. I mean, those can be very deep problems that you have in this decision tree. Now to the most important part, I think, for really deploying AI, which is trust. How can we trust it? And the short answer is you can't without doing certain things. Let's listen in.
Beyond AI, trust revolutionizing artificial intelligence with a comprehensive approach that leaves no stone unturned.
Okay, first let's look at the problems. Hallucination. Hallucination is when it says things that are not correct. Infringement of copyrights. It's obvious. You scrape things that are not allowed to be scraped and you infringe copyrights. Plagiarism, cheating, it's self-explanatory. Lack of transparency. 42, the famous answer. If you read the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? How did you arrive to that answer? We don't know. So it has to help. Bias, discrimination, privacy concerns, ethical dilemmas, security risks, deep fakes, the list goes on. So these are issues that we had to work very hard to find solution. It's not perfect, I'm the first one to recognize, but we are working on it. And let's listen in a little bit. I don't want to.
Data is the lifeblood of AI. At E.ON, we use trusted sources to amass quality data, improving the quantity through unique training capabilities.
Okay, I'm not going to listen to her. I'm going to talk instead. So I'll give you a few examples. One is assessment, right? How do we know that you do the right thing? I didn't show you that in the demo. I'll do that later. Is that, let's say I do a procedure and then I get an assessment. How do I know that that assessment is correct? Now, this is linked also to plagiarism. You can use that today to do essays, and it goes very, very quick. In this environment, you can't do it as quickly because you actually have to do things. And it's like this old song, every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you. That's a British guy, right? Okay, so the system, in this case, if you allow it, will watch you and see what you did when you did it. It's a simulator, right? It's a bit, you can still fake it. You can give it to a friend that knows how to do it. But if you want to duplicate it in volume, it's not so easy. Biases, it's a big one, right? How do you ensure diversity? And I have a whole 250-page document that we'll talk about sometime about diversity. What we're doing now actually is AI influencers, but not the TikTok influencers that talk about how you can enlarge your lips and other body parts, but the ones that actually talk about the key things that matter. And there's a big group of people, my kids included, that are interested. They're geeks, right? They're interested in how to explore the universe. They're interested in how we can save the environment, etc. So we have influencers for that too. Okay, so I can dwell on this forever, but I will not. I will go to something concrete and very interesting, I think, which is IntelliScan. But first, to make IntelliScan matter, I'll show you what happened. Two examples. Remember the hospital that I showed you a second ago. So I introduced an AI to IntelliScan, and I asked her, tell me what you see in this room. That was my first question. And the second question, based on what you see in this room, what kind of surgical procedure can you perform? It's a bit like, based on the things I have in my refrigerator, what kind of dish can I prepare? Let's see what it said.
Anesthesia machine. This is located on the right side of the room, next to the patient monitor. It is a device that delivers a mixture of oxygen, gas, and anesthetic agents to the patient through a breathing circuit. It monitors the patient's vital signs and respiratory rate. These are located on a table next to the...
Anyway, you notice it speaks British with a Swedish accent. I was in Sweden now, we did this, I speak Swedish, so that's fine. But, so you get a point. You let it loose in a nuclear power plant and it will point you out even if there are leaks and stuff, right? But then comes the next thing. I asked the question, what can you do with this? Okay, let's listen in what you said.
This is the procedure to remove...
Examples of possible procedures that you can perform with the equipment in this room.
This operation room is capable of doing various types of surgical procedures. Some of the possible procedures are Cataract surgery. This is a procedure to remove the
Okay, so you identify that. And I thought that was easy. How about if I let it loose in this room or any room? And when I was home for 2 weeks in California, where I live, Laguna Beach, I let it loose in my study room.
Welcome to Laguna Beach, a coastal city in Orange County, California.
This is a home office setup. The desk is made of wood and is cluttered with various items such as a coffee cup, headphones, and a microphone. There is a large window that has a view of the hills and the ocean. The window has bamboo blinds that are partially drawn. There is an exercise bike in the room. The room is brightly lit
Okay,
with
so you
natural
got the
light
point.
from the window. The bookshelf has 3
But let's go to the Sherlock Holmes question. Who lives in this room? And that's when it became scary for me. Okay?
home office radiates the essence of a creative professional evident from the macro and microphone. The eclectic mix on the bookshelves, from sculptures to varied books, suggests an individual with a rich tapestry of experiences, possibly well-traveled and cultured. The exercise bike speaks to a commitment to health, while the prominent world map indicates a global perspective or wanderlust. With a blend of personal touches and functional items, this room seems to be the sanctuary of someone who intertwines their work with their diverse personal interests.
Okay. My wife said it was too flattering, but okay, I take it. So now, on that note, what can we do this concretely for a university?
Eon IntelliScan. Welcome to a revolutionary understanding of your environment with Eon IntelliScan. Picture this. Using your mobile device, you effortlessly capture a complete 360-degree view. In device, you effortlessly capture a complete 300.
Okay, so first question. What's this? What's wrong with that picture? Anyone? The young fellows. The connector. Okay. So we asked Eon, and Eon said, what's funny about this image? The humor in this image comes from the absurdity of plugging in a large, outdated VGA connector into a small, modern smartphone charging port. So this is not image recognition, right? This is reasoning, right? So that's where this becomes very
Your mobile
interesting.
device, you effortlessly capture a complete 300.
So I asked, what happens when the glove drops? It will hit the wood plank and the ball will fly up.
60-degree view. Instantly, our AI dives into analysis, identifying and marking each object in sight. But it goes beyond mere identification. Our AI now understands the relationships between these elements. Here's where the magic happens. The AI becomes your personal guide, unveiling the secrets of your surroundings. It could be teaching you how things work, guiding through complex procedures, or offering instructions on standard.
So this can scale a lot, right? Medical. Earthquakes in Turkey after the earthquake. Tourist instructions. Help, guidance. Obviously, it expands also to different areas. Okay, so with that, I think you got it. Now, where is this used in reality? I'll use 6 examples. I haven't done one specific for management, but I'll do one separately for management for you. So this is obviously used in areas like
manufacturing and how you can use AI
manufacturing,
assistant,
right? That's an area. And here's an example from a manufacturing environment where they're using this today. So many Fortune 500 that are applying this to, decrease costs for not only training, but increase cost for productivity. Safety, anything to do with safety. This is from Kuwait. They are using this for safety procedure in an environment. Let's see here. This is from an electrical facility where they train for various procedures. And the facility is so big, so they have to put it on a street. This one is interesting. It's a flight from London to Los Angeles. And although it's very improbable, you get a crash or you get an engine failure, and then you have about 9 seconds to take a decision. If you take the not so good decision, bad things happen. So in this case, they are using the system for getting not only guidance what to do, but showing you what to do in seconds, very, very fast. Okay. India. In India, I was there for a couple of weeks now working. India is a big deployment location for us. We have just done 57,000 students in Assam province. I'm going to Bhopal yesterday, the chief minister, we had a meeting with them, New Delhi, etc., etc. And they are building 100 new airports. But how do you train all these people that may not have a tower available to train on? So, and of course, we do work also in areas such as security and defense. The US Air Force is a big user of this type of technology. Okay, healthcare. It's not just jobs like this CPR, but it's also things to do with psychology, right?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Morty. I am the Chief of Cardiology at Children's Hospital of Orange County.
I'm Ramin. I'm one of the third year.
So Children's Hospital in Orange County, many hospitals are using it, is for patient training. I mean, there's a lot of anxiety that goes on when you go for a procedure. In fact, this is one of the things that take a lot of time for doctors. AI has proven to have almost 500% more empathy than a human because they have time, right? They don't have to cope with the stress. So not only are we doing that, but we actually can explain what's going to happen with a patient and exactly, and also guide them. For children, we created this very interesting thing called Choco the Bear that it guides them from MRI procedures, right? So guides the patient to that process and make sure that they are not stressed and enjoy, if you can use that word, when it comes to MRI procedures, right? So there's tons of things you can do with this, from training to learning to pre-op and during operation procedures, including things related to COVID-19, which was a big usage during this latest pandemic we had. And of course, there are obvious things like if you go to Prague and you land there, when you land, you'll have an avatar, and that avatar will guide you in whatever language you want to that procedure. Or you land in Italy at the Tower of Pisa, you'll have your avatar guide there. And it will also take you back in time, during the time of Michelangelo, to see how this looked, and you'll see the experience then. So that's some of the usage of this. Next year, we have the Olympics in Europe, namely in France. So we are this system is training now 10,000 security workers for suspicious signs. And recently, as you all know, we had this earthquakes in Syria and also in Turkey that we use this pre and post. So those are just scratching the surface. Later on, I'll talk about management and role play. Okay, summary. Where are the benefits? If you are to summarize our lessons learned from universities, whether it's United States or Canada or other locations, right? Now, interesting enough, whether independing of the country, whether it is Honduras, like you see in the image there, or it's South Africa or Vietnam or Canada or Papua New Guinea, 4 things stick out. Students, first of all, students learn faster, retain information longer, and make better decisions. That's the most important takeaway. Secondly, the quality of education, especially online, increases 4-fold, right? So what we see here is that student engagement increases, student satisfaction increases, and student enrollment increases drastically. And we have the figures there. The third one is most universities I meet want to undergo this global digital transformation, and they want to own their IP. And the same applies for governments. They all have this vision, 2025, 2030. The question is, how do you translate that vision, that PowerPoint, in practical actions? And I think we can offer an example. One thing that struck me during your presentation was that you have a capability to also monetize this. So you have a lot of knowledge that resides within those walls that you can use the marketplace, where when you create something, 80% of the content and the revenue comes to you. So those are just 4 examples. Now, if you want to learn more about this, there's literally hundreds of hours of examples online of how people use it for different things. And in interest of time, I will not do that. Just go to YouTube channel and you'll find it. So when we started with this, it was the famous universities that had a lot of deep pockets that use this, right? side, Fraunhofer Institute, Carnegie Mellon, Cornell University, Imperial College, yeah. Talking about the UK. Now, as the technology became cheaper, faster, better, we've seen it go all the way to K-12, community colleges, etc. Now, who's using this in industry? Lots of big Fortune 500. Why do they use it? Obviously, because we've seen that training costs can be reduced up to 92%, and productivity can be increased up to 90%. Okay, so I'm on this tour. Mainly, I'm meeting governments, ministers, ministers, prime ministers sometimes, it's a matter of trying to get governments to change, which is very difficult. But you'll be surprised, many of them are embracing this. So the picture there was taken a couple of weeks ago in Singapore. Singapore is a country that really has gone all in on this technology. But even countries, the first picture is there from our center. The second one is in the Philippines. I got to meet the people there. And I think the global south will have a big chance to leapfrog, very much the same like mobile phones. If you remember, I was sitting in a meeting once, this is so interesting, with Germans and Indian and Chinese people, right? We were talking about the future mobile. And the German gentleman there was very skeptical. He said, it will take you 30 to 40 years to put all the copper cables in the ground, right? and the Chinese friend was looking at me like, we're not going to do any of that. And look at where India is today, China. They are the #1 in telco companies. Same here, right? Because I come from Sweden. I just was there. We have a lot of concerns about ethical concerns, the democratic process that has to be undergone. They can afford in Nigeria to think about that, or in Ethiopia. They have to use it because their alternative is none, right? So I think there's an interesting thing happening there. Okay, so let's say we engage with you. Let's say we do a partnership and we do a center. What does that practically entail? 4 things. First, you need infrastructure, right? You need to have a cloud solution that hosts this fast. Right now, everything you saw today is connected with Amazon Web Services. So it's actually optimized for usage. Number 2, you need to have an infrastructure that links to everything, right? All the devices, whether it's Microsoft HoloLens, whether it's Facebook Meta Oculus, or Apple, 31 different technologies. And by the way, by the time you deliver it, it's going to change. New device. It has to be agnostic. We deliver that. Third, you need to deliver all the platforms, right? And again, the platforms are changing monthly now. I mean, the level of the development is totally incredible. Then you need some hardware. You don't need a lot of hardware, but I see that you already have headsets. So I recommend that. We also provide things like 360 cameras. We provide scanning devices, although you have phone as a scanning. So some of that. But the good news on the hardware side, that's pretty much use whatever you have. And then last but not least, the know-how to make sure that you actually, people are embracing this. Okay, so now concrete examples. I like the examples. Here's a concrete university from Europe. We started in April last year, and we started with 1,000 students, right? And in April, so that was the pilot. And between April 20th and June 20th, we reached 16,502 students. But that's maybe exciting, but the more exciting is that they developed 52,000 applications in 2 months. If you told me that 3 years ago, I said this is impossible, right? It will take us 20 years to do that. But guess what? They use the MIT method of self-directed learning. So the teacher assigned the students, because the teachers are not necessarily experts in VR and AR. Maybe they will never be, but they know their topic, right? So they assigned the teacher, by Thursday at 8 p.m., or 8 a.m., you have to do this and this. And then they presented it in for a group. And out of this 52,000 application, the teacher selected the top 4,339, which were incorporated as a part of the curriculum. So they had a ready-made curriculum in 2 months. Now, you can do this in many different ways, but that's pretty impressive. So we have all levels here, which I'm not going to go to from, you can start very small with a classroom, with a lab, with a center. So today I'm only going to talk about last point here about the center, and there's all video around it. But
welcome to the Spatial AI Center.
Time doesn't allow us to go through. Instead, I will focus on concrete things, 6 things. I spend about a minute on each. then we're done. One is learn, train, perform. This is what I talked my whole presentation. Jobs. How do you connect this with jobs? And not any jobs, the future jobs. Third, cutting edge technology. How do you stay azure? Because by the time we deliver whatever we deliver, it's old. And this goes monthly, right? And it's not any longer 6 months or a year. How do you generate this center so it's sustainable? It's actually profitable. That's also important as an academic institution. How do you connect with the global network? And most important, in my mind, is how do you connect with the community, right? If you want to make it accessible and available and affordable for everybody, how do we make that connection? So that's what this center is all about. So the first thing.
Eon Reality is transforming the way students and professionals learn, explore.
Yeah, the first thing you heard about is learn, train, perform. So we're not going to bore you with that. Now, the second one is the jobs. So we have two methods for that. We have an academy. This academy has been around for 10 years. Originally, it was called the Virtual Reality Innovation Academy. It became the Metaverse Academy, and now it's the Spatial AI Academy. 1/3 theory, 2/3 practice. During the practice, we actually connect with real industries, right? And the beauty of this is that this is not used to, let's say, learn. This is used to actually learn how to use this technology in order to create applications, right? So it's a different one, which is perfect for you because you're working in computer science and you're working in this field. So that will be working quite well. Now, what's nice about it is, guess what? If I go to, I don't know, British Telecom or someone, and I ask them to deploy this technology, after they see the value, they will love to do it. First question they ask, guess what it is? That's the question, yeah. But when they see the math, that's probably pretty easy. No, the real question they have is, can I get 8 people that know this stuff and I can use it? So we have almost 99% placement of the academy because people are really want to get these people. They are more important actually than the software. Okay, so that's something that we think it's a good step. So I'm amazed what student can create. This is our center, believe it or not, in Morocco. So you can see application they've done, not only focused on education. It can be hospitality. It can be your personal coach. It can be many different things. Most of these are done as apps. Some of these become startups.
Eon Startup Program. Picture a world where spatial artificial intelligence revolutionizes industries, transforming the way we live, work, and connect.
Now, most people think that most jobs will be created by startups because this technology has a new way of looking at things. We as a company can only focus on one area, which is knowledge transfer. But there's ample areas here that we can stimulate for fostering innovation. And what do we need here in UK? I think UK has a long tradition of this entrepreneurial. You are the cradle of industrialism and capitalism, right? That's where it all started in Manchester. So why don't we take this leap and with the help of government and others and build that startup community? I will also agree it's not so easy to do startups. You need special people, 1 in 1,000, sometimes 1 in 500,000. But 30-40% of the academy can work for that entrepreneur. So that's possible. We have already 3 unicorns through the academy. Those are people that we took to Silicon Valley and they're building very large corporations. So it is possible, although not easy. However, most people
in manufacturing
will work for industry, right? So things like whether it's construction or financials or medical or, different areas that they will be able to work for. And there's a hunger right now for this type of knowledge. Now, let's go to infrastructure. So you saw my phone today, which is probably the most banal and simple device. But this can be used, we have a saying, from phone to dome. So some of you that know us have seen that we have solved probably 2,500 caves. I don't know if you know what caves is. If you ever seen a Star Trek, there's a holodeck. You go in a room and the whole room is illuminated. So the floor, the walls, everything is alive. So I can publish this from a phone all the way to a dome. Okay, so this can go from very small and we can have We have centers with holographic displays. This one is using hand gestures. So you can actually change the whole architecture in a way that's very futuristic. And this is included in our center. You can also
The mirror
hear
was
people.
positioned in a strategic location on FIFA FanFest. 350 football fans a day were invited to pick a
It's
virtual.
called the interactive mirror. You can do a lot of cool stuff with this, but we try to keep it simple, not to. So the idea is to scale it from this to a projector to a holographic device. Okay. Sustainability. We call it learn and earn. The ability to allow talented people to publish their knowledge and share it on the marketplace and derive revenues from this. It's something that we are very excited about. And I'll give you one example. This is an example from a professor that is specialized in eyes, and they created this application that has sold for, I think, millions now. And this is, for example, to depict what dysfunction a patient has by injecting different pathologies. So Horner syndrome, and then putting light on their eyes, the virtual avatar's eyes, and then diagnosing that patient. So that's an example of an application developed by this. When we started in Singapore set up a center like this. We did it with Nanyang University, which were ranked, when we started, I think 86. Now they are ranked number 11 in the world. So it was a pretty good progress. It was not because of us.
Got a flash over at level 3,
Although
guys.
I think we contributed. One thing they gave us money for was to say, where can this go? So this video is about 6 years old. We used Singaporean actors to do it. And interestingly now, everything you see in this movie is now a reality.
This is the meeting room, and
so whether it's construction or what you can do for workers to inject knowledge in the physical environment, or it's oil and gas of connecting it with IoT, or it's my favorite one, which is this one here. Funny enough, this is the Singaporean dream that the husband works while the lady is having child, and he's experienced the first time the child in virtual reality. I feel that the use case was really, I was against it, but anyway, they wanted it. So we actually can do that too. So things are moving very, very quickly. Now, how about communities? Let's make a pledge here. If we get going, I would like, London is kind of the city of the world, right? So we 4 times a year meet with everybody. And we meet in different locations, exotic locations. So California, a month ago we were in Singapore, and we have prime ministers, Fortune 500 leaders, and we share ideas, thoughts, but we also allow our partners, like hopefully yourself, to present their vision and what they want to do with this. And it's very fruitful. The next one will be at JITEX.
E.ON is a global company, and Istanbul is a global city. It's the meeting point of the world. And we saw yesterday and today how it all matches perfectly together. We came from all the continents.
So I think we learned more, and more ideas came on the product from this type of events than anything else.
And the vision of education for
it's a
all
2-3 day
that is
session.
linked to the new technology.
Anyway, and I do encourage you. Last thing, I know I said last a couple of times, so I'll make sure this is last. I'm still.
Welcome to Beyond Realities. Learn
Okay,
for Life program.
so this is something I'm very passionate about. 15 years ago, we started a nonprofit together with my wife, and the idea was that how can we help Africa, Papua New Guinea, Honduras, places that don't have the luxury to have what we have. And we started a Learn for Life program based on a simple premise: knowledge is a human right, and make it available, accessible, and affordable.
Welcome to Eon Realities Learn for Life program, where we believe knowledge is a human right. Learn for Life is Eon Realities.
So what's fun about this is that we realize that technology is not something fancy, because when you think about this, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, you think about Stanford and very advanced location. So we said, no, let's bring it to Ethiopia. So when we started, we actually started with places that have no internet, no electricity. It was crazy. We actually put it with computers. There was no mobile phones 15 years ago, really, that worked well. So, and we started with very basic stuff. Let me give you an example. Understanding of malaria, HIV/AIDS education, beekeeping, soil conservation, things that you wouldn't think are, we actually work with functional illiterate people. And after a while, we did the first project totally philanthropically without help. After a while, we start getting help from USAID, Kellogg's Foundation, with that UNESCO, UNIDO. And this is something that I think is very important. Important also for universities here to have that collaboration. And funny enough, after about 10 years, we actually even start, it wasn't only nonprofit, it was profitable activities. And Africa, which I'm really passionate about, is something where we see that growing. Nigeria will be the #1 highest population once India peaks, which India will do soon. And China has already peaked, right? Nigeria will be one of these countries. And Africa, I think Africa, with not all the countries, but many of them, will be what we saw, South Korea and Singapore do, places like Rwanda and others. So I think this is an interesting area. Also, I think that we can do more there. Okay, on that note, I skip all the remaining slides because those are not relevant. And then I want to also allow some questions. But I wanted to show you this. I was in Borneo, in Sarawak, and they built a center there. And this is in Kuching. Anyone been in Kuching? No? So it's from Kuala Lumpur on the same side where you have Indonesia. And I was very impressed to see what they got. This is their center.
So, of course, the best part is the Eon UNXR. We always keep
what was so impressive is they've been at it for a year and a half. They created tremendous amount of applications that actually applied in the business context around Malaysia and the region. They also have a showroom where they bring corporations.
Okay, so we are
behind the hologram and have a pictures there.
And I'll give an example, the construction industry. So all the construction industry has this device that they developed. I'll show you in a second. Let me just go.
The platform to our local industries, including the housing.
Oh,
and
wow.
Good thing last time, we developed this housing sector.
And use it for
we show
housing
them how to
and construction and configuration.
Oh, wow.
So that was something that I haven't seen in that shape. Anyway, what I also liked is they connect the dots between this and the Green Tech Lab. They connect it with the digital lab. They have an IoT center. So all IoT sensors actually have a virtual reality representation. They have a Huawei 5G center, and that's totally interconnected. They have 11 test beds in our center there, including things like solar, hydrogen, construction, 97.2% employability, 4,395 graduate, 68% international certifications, right? So that's cool. And then the last thing I couldn't resist is that we are doing now spatial AI cities. So in Nice now, we are working with historical landmarks, popular attractions, children's entertainment, nature exploration. So you actually have it on your phone. Same thing in Dubai, same thing in Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Singapore. So I would like London to be a spatial AI city. And I think we can do it. This is a perfect project for students, right? To understand how this links could be very well funded by the government because you have a lot of tourist money here. So I was like, it feels like we should have it in London. I was yesterday and I was missing this because I go to a famous place and I hold my phone and the statue doesn't talk to me back, which I kind of hope and expect. Okay, on that note, thank you so much. And I am ready for questions, or how would you like to do it, or panel?
For the next part this morning, we will have a Q&A session with our panel members, which will include that. Does anyone have any specific questions in relation to that presentation or box page? And before I start, maybe I'll introduce about
Yes, please.
I'm 3 years old to UK. So I work for University of Arts London. There's a new institute which is formed, Creative Computing Institute. I'm a co-leader and senior lecturer for AI. And I come from a very strong background on Internet of Things. And I'm a founder of a club, which is like IoT Alliance. So that sparked my thing when you said about the IoT lab. So you were saying so much about the AI and stuff. So I was really impressed with that word you spoke about, the IoT. So can you give some insights about that which your company did when specific to
Yeah.
Internet of Things?
Yeah. So obviously this links to this. Give me a good excuse actually to show you something. But the short answer is that today you have a lot of IoTs that sensor data, where this data goes somewhere, and that somewhere can be in a GitLab power plant. It goes to a control room, and then you can have all that information there. But just see it. But the way it does is that instead of doing that remotely, what happens is that you just point your phone to that IoT. It will recognize the IoT, and the image, as you saw, these panels that were floating in the air in the beginning, you were there. They will pop up with the IoT data when you need it, as you need it, instantly, right? So you will know the temperature, the vibration, or whatever that IoT is disclosing on site without having to go back and forth to go to the website. And so those floating panels, something as simple. No. Okay, so if I'm allowed to just show this, because it will take 30 seconds, so I'll go fix. But this is, by the way, the public version that is this today.
Welcome
if
to
you
London.
download it for free.
Did you know that the Tower of London has been a royal palace,
And I'll do
prison,
the
and
IoT
even a
thing.
zoo?
Okay.
Please
So
start by setting up
you
a
can see the
persistent
user
anchor.
interface looks very old compared with what I just showed you. And let's see. The only thing I can speculate is if you have some type of switch firewalls, because I'm going to you, and that could block the AI sometimes. That's why if it doesn't work now, then we have that issue, because I never had that fail on any demo.
Let's add a real-world annotation. This will be one of the topics of this experience.
Okay, so I'll select the input, and now just to do something totally different, because we have had I'll use this headset, right? So now it's gonna do this, and imagine this is an IoT, right? It will geoposition that information on that spot. So Oculus Quest, right? So now it's drum beat. Let's see, should work. And then a record is to do maybe in knowledge injection.
The Oculus Quest is a virtual reality headset that offers an all-in-one gaming experience with no wires or PC required.
So the knowledge portal will be then going directly to the sensor data. So there will be a video.
The Oculus Quest is the first all-in-one virtual reality headset that doesn't require a PC or external
Okay,
sensors.
So I'll cut that off. I'll put continue. And you can
When you are
see
done
here.
exploring the knowledge portal,
So now it's going to tell me about the refresh rate of Oculus Quest, right? For example, right? Or anything that I want here, resolution, refresh rate, et cetera, et cetera. So that's that. Now, if I want to take this room, this is and I have the IoT, and what you can do is I can, in seconds, do this. So to create what you just saw was scan. So it was an invisible scan that it does in live, but I can do also permanent scan. So if you don't mind standing still, you're going to be exposed to, I don't want to get it on, but okay, so I'm curating. So this is like painting, right? So when you paint your kitchen, you have to make sure that you don't leave any red marks, so you actually cover everything. So there is the scan. So this is the scan, aerial scan, and you can see here that I will be able to create a copy of this room invite other people in this room with all the sensors. So let's say in the University of Glasgow, they have these Harry Potter looking labs, and they are able to scan those labs very quickly and then invite all their students from across the world to be in that lecture, in that room, although they are on a rooftop in Bangalore. So this is very, very interesting stuff that you can do with that. Okay, thank you.
So we are due to kick off the Q&A session, and panel members today include my colleagues Rebecca and Nelinda. They're part of the York St John University London team, and Nelinda is the Associate Dean, and he has specialism in AI and machine learning, and also is a blockchain developer, expert researcher and practitioner, as well as a data consultant with over 20 years of experience in the industry. So we're really looking to have Nelinda as part of our team. And Nelinda is launching a data science course in a few weeks' time. Rebecca, to my left, has 20 years experience in teaching and research. Is Associate Professor at SRM University, India, holder of 4 patents, 17 journal papers, 27 conference papers, and 4 book chapters. Also fantastic to have you as part of our team as well. And of course, you know Dan, who has given a great introduction to himself. We also have Faisal Nazir, who has joined us from IBM, and he is a Chief Architect and Associate Partner, CTO for Digital Twin at IBM, and an AI Specialist at AWS. You are vastly experienced with data analytics, machine learning, quantum computing, security, and telecommunications. I'm pleased to say that Faisal is joining our London Advisory Board, so welcome along to all of you today. So we have around half an hour for questions for the panel. So who would like to start?
Do we miss, sorry, one introduction?
Yeah, I introduced Nelinda.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry, I must be checked. Sorry.
No, Nelinda would not forgive me. Nelinda and I have actually worked together, and Nelinda was a key part of our success here today. So we've worked together for 3 years now, so we know each other very well. So super. Any questions for the panel? Who would like to start? Okay, well, I have some questions in case anyone didn't have any ready to hand. So what was the inspiration behind starting Eon Reality? So this is to you, Dan. And how has the company evolved since its inception?
Yes, we used to run a simulation company that built simulators, aircraft simulators, tank simulators, things like that. And it was indisputable that this is the best way to teach a pilot how to safely land an aircraft in water, right? By simulation. And we were envisioning that Moore's law would continue to apply, and then eventually you can train a nurse or something like that. So that was the inspiration of Moore's law, and trying to widen the experiential learning capacity in different areas.
Fabulous. Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Yes, please go ahead.
3.5 years I've been selling experiential technology to the likes of NASA, Boeing, Lockheed. Rather than technology just being the ticking box, shiny, incinerating, scabbard dust, all of the immersive classrooms, educational, that I've seen, and I'm calling this space, it has to be about curriculum, so about skill, and otherwise they will become redundant. Every training centre I've been in globally, we go and you see the new kit, what hundreds and thousands of pounds are invested in. Until we get spatial, until we get what you're doing, and we know each other through testing. How do we ensure that the curriculum, the talent, the teachers, and the students get access to this now, rather than 6 months? Because AI is changing the game, not monthly, weekly, with everything I'm seeing. So I'm in the process now of really finding how all of this technology comes into academic with HCM, and how we create the campus of the future now. So I'm really excited about what we're doing, and I think it ticks a lot of boxes. But it's the understanding of other teachers got the skills to be able to train this with conviction. Where do we see the gaps? Because my wife's a teacher trainer, so I'm just trying to get a.
So have you seen the there was a TEDx talk recently from the person who invented Khan Academy, and he was applying the use of generative AI to teaching students how to learn maths.
Yeah.
So I think the persona development, I think Danny was showing, you can actually train an ML model to assume a persona.
Yeah.
And the real research area, the area that's of biggest interest to me in LLMs is automated reasoning, or reasoning, sorry. And if you can apply reasoning to the teaching process, the pedagogic, I don't know, the teaching process, I can't say that, the word pedagogical, the teaching process, then what you can do is augment the understanding of the student by giving them the reasoning whilst they ask questions interactively. So you can supplement that. And then I think if you can make that available through some sort of interface like an iPad or something, and stream that from maybe even the cloud, or maybe if you can do it directly on the hardware and there's limitations in hardware and battery, then that's, I think, something that's very, very possible. So I think it's about access. And I think the best thing I saw about that was one of the exciting things is democratizing this in terms of the barrier to entry is the biggest problem here. So I think getting the barrier to entry broken is a big thing. And then getting this ability to create your own personal Marie Curie or Da Vinci or whatever directly in your space sitting next to you, I think is going to be a massive game changer. And I think that's available pretty much now.
Yeah.
You just have to put it together. I think Dad's putting it together.
I think that's a really excellent question. And I think that is the question that key educators will be asking in terms of how do we adopt it?
Yeah,
how do we keep up to date with it? How do we make sure we incorporate it into our everyday lives? Making sure that our students, not just science students, but students from all disciplines know how to embrace it. And our academics, how do we train and empower them to be able to do that? Rebecca and Linda, would you like to add anything to Faisal's answer?
Yeah, it's a good one actually. I mean, rather than object detection, we talked about the reasoning. It's one of the things that as AI ML experts that we would like to see, and Dan demonstrated that on his using reasoning behind, rather than just to capture object and then bring it out on text. But going forward, accessing for any device would be a good thing for us, because we are reaching countries like India and Sri Lanka remotely, so that would be a game changer for us, as Faisal said.
Definitely. And I was also really interested in Dan's presentation talking about self-directed learning. It's really important for us as educators that we work in partnership with our students. And, you talked about the example where they would make 56 applications in 2 months, and they selected a large proportion that then they brought into the curriculum. So that entire process would enable the people involved to know how to use it, how to incorporate it, and also how to keep up to date. So how do we do that here? What do we need to do here in this institution to be able to kind of set those sorts of things up and work in partnership with our students?
So would you like to comment on? I have one comment.
Yeah, you can do it.
I feel that I talk too much, but okay. So it's awareness, understanding, and belief, right? First, we need to be aware that this exists, and that's what we're trying to do with all the way possible. In fact, we are launching now AI influencers with 100,000 bots. So what people do for elections to disturb them, but you can do this for knowledge. So you can do it online, and having people that actually love to talk about what we want our kids to look at instead of flat earth and other things, right? So that's what doing what we're doing today is very useful, right? And I'm so grateful to have the chance. But to do it on permanent basis, you need to set up a center. So for us, the center, and that's why we sponsor those centers, is because you become the beacon of light. So you don't have to have a lot of centers. If you have one in London to start with, and you can foster meetings where you create awareness, then you can bring it home. Everybody walks home with the app, they understand, and then eventually they apply it for their own, and they believe, because the belief is when things, the rubber meets the road, so to speak. But it's a process, and I don't know, that's the combination by leverage AI and leverage the power of social and media and others, which cast this wide net, and then unfortunately, you have to do what we are doing here. But it has to be from your side, not from my side, right?
Yeah.
So the key here is to see it from, for example, social justice perspective, to see it from the matter of expertise that makes you special. That's when the understanding and belief comes.
And I think as well, talking about your organization's focus is on knowledge transfer.
Yep.
And your non-profit is around making knowledge accessible to all.
Yep.
And fundamentally, that is what education is here for. But, you know, are we doing that? Is a higher education institute open to all from all walks of life? No, it isn't. And so it does that support social justice agenda? No, it doesn't. And so therefore, how do we deliver on that? By using technology to be able to transfer knowledge to all. So that's very exciting for us. And also in regards to our academics, and this is sort of questioning our higher education sector, often there is research for research's sake to promote an individual's research profile, and that research can sit on a shelf and not really benefit society or benefit anybody. So how do we make sure our research benefits and enhances existing knowledge and creates new knowledge, and we make sure that our knowledge is accessible to all? Clearly that would need to be through an appropriate platform using AI, which comes back to my presentation around how do we support people across the world to navigate in the world? Is that through capitalizing and utilizing AI?
I just want to say one thing. Moving away from technology, I think the great way of training and educating is creating some sort of social cohesion, and that's that kind of link and creation of community.
Exactly.
So the creation of community is best done by trying to be together, right? Whether it's in the physical space or the virtual space. So I think that's the big game changer here, because you can sit in a room and you can understand the theory, right? But the way people learn is by discussion and community. I think that's the big differentiator. I think here, if you can create, I mean, I come from a lot of open source as well. So I used to work for Red Hat back in the day. So the whole open source community was created through lots of people interacting and working with each other who never met. And a lot of the technology you see here is built upon these people. You know, this is the standing on the shoulder of giants concept. These people who never met, interacted, created communities and built solutions and built technology that people are jumping on top of. So I think that's where virtual reality can create communities and create that social connection. So I think it's not a technological problem. All adoption of technology is psychology, right? Or so maybe sociology. Maybe that's where.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about it in that, through that lens, and I think if you can do that, you can create engines of creation.
Yeah, I think that's a really valuable point. It does connect into my background.
Sociology and personalized thing, it can be taken to the
Personalization and so we've come beyond personalization now. So I'm talking to some clients about hyper personalization. So the fact is that you could dynamically create AI that adapts to every input that you give it, and you can personalize the conversation. That's absolutely coming, but that's never going to be the community. That's going to be just a proxy to help you understand better. But the community and how the community interacts is that social effect, that network effect is actually even more important. Except AI is an accelerator. It's not a thing that's going to help you create new ideas, right? So, because all the ideas in AI, if you look at large language models, where they come from all this data is trained on the internet. Some of the reasons we get hallucinations, for example, in GPT-4 is because it's been trained with people having flame wars on Reddit, right? And it's coming up with all sorts of weird memes and stuff. And then when you type in these memes into the large language model, it will come up with a lot of nonsense. So it's about quality of data that you bring in. But so the basic point I'm making is there's nothing new in the model. So creativity is a different thing. I do not assume the model is creative. It's just a statistical, it's a massive thing that statistically can give you an answer and generate an answer. You can't create ideas, right? That's a big, people are putting too much on Gen AI right now. So I think that's an important thing. You can only create creativity through interaction. Maybe next week it will change, right? Maybe it can make stuff.
Gemini.
Well, actually, Gemini is the next Google model that's coming up.
So, no, and I completely agree, and I think the emphasis on community is really important. And I mentioned that in my presentation that community is key for us. From a sociological perspective, we look at creating environments whereby people can be a fish in water, so they can succeed. And we then question the norms, cultural norms, and our behaviours to make sure people can adapt to them. So in a higher education setting, that in itself is a power structure. and supports people of dominant classes to become more powerful. So how do we break that down? We create communities, physical communities, where people can feel like they have a sense of belonging. If we can create those communities online and encourage people from all walks of life to be able to be successful, break down those power structures in society, that in itself will take us to the next level of making education accessible to all. So, and also in regards to my past, I have overseen the launch of about 5 different types of systems, and pretty much all of them, and this is not attributable to me, didn't work because people did not adopt technology, didn't get involved, they didn't use it, and so therefore it became obsolete. So I think that's really, really key and important. Yeah.
Sorry, one thing to consider there, I'll give you an example. So I spend a lot of time in India, several weeks now, and travel. And one thing that I saw is our Singaporean education institutions that we've been there for 10 years are forming businesses where they basically take their best practices and apply them in India. And I see that same role you can play at this university. I don't know, Sri Lanka, for example. I've been to Sri Lanka a couple of times. So this actually can be turned to a win-win, because the power of AI, the power of this technology experience, so can encapsulate that knowledge very quickly and disseminate in a very efficient way. That can turn up to an expansion of your university footprint and online, and that could benefit the local community very quickly, right? So that's what I'm trying to see, how we can make those connections, those communities that exist, and leverage. And are you from Sri Lanka, by the way?
Well, I was born and bred in
Sri Lanka. Yeah, but there was some connection, I think, with Sri Lanka. Maybe I've heard someone here. Anyway, I use Sri Lanka as an example, but it doesn't matter. But because that's where the population is, right? And that's where the growth will be. We are pretty static here in the northern part of Europe. Yeah.
Maybe perhaps something.
Go ahead.
For Dan. So I have 2 parts of the question. The first one is, I heard you saying you're working with 100 countries and your wife was also part of some program in Rwanda, Kigali.
Yes.
So it again strikes a spark because I'm working for University of Rwanda as visiting professor for past 5 years, and I'm still in touch. So what I felt was it's maybe my opinion, there is difference when you teach to students of African and a sector in UK or in India, right? So there are a lot of factors which decides it. Maybe the way they're from, the culture, all that, the perspective, the English, not their medium, and lots of different stuff. So did you find any challenge when you wanted to kind of enter into one part of the country, launching your product or getting these kind of technologies into those kind of developing or developed countries in your perspective? Do you have any points like 1, 2, 3, which made you challenging to kind of penetrate through? And in some areas it was easier and some difficult. Maybe it's not an easy question. Maybe it requires some kind of assimilation, but still.
I can tell you, it helps that you come from an insignificant country like Sweden. Nobody cares about Sweden, right?
Okay.
If you come from America, even bad people, bad will. So if you come from China or France or even the UK, right? The great British Empire. So being very humble, right? It helps. And then, but no, I'm surprised. We see brains. The next Einstein comes from Kigali, right? Yeah. We're living in a wonderful world where technology has enabled us, irrespective of race, gender. We have all the curious one and the crazy ones raised to the top anywhere, right? Yeah. We need the crazy ones, crazy like. So I know. In fact, I would say the pandemic helped us, because it would be difficult for me to employ people. I have people in Kigali to work for us in the pre-pandemic era, because they had to move to London and get a crappy apartment here, and it wasn't it wasn't feasible. Now they can get a huge salary for Kigali and live there with their family. So I think I see the world is totally changing, and I see that it's been quite easy. But you have to go there, and you have to be humble, because if you come with the American mindset or even Swedish mindset, you have to undress completely and try to metaphorically, because I don't get in trouble. Okay, that's So
Thank
it's
you
easy.
for that. And
But,
my
but,
second-
but if you like to travel, I would say, and if you don't mind having no other life than this life. So those are the small sacrifices along the way.
The second part is like, I think it's, for me, it feels like we are almost saturated. We've got all that if we want through AI or ML, like, name it, we have it. It feels like we are kind of, it's just that you have to spread your wings, maybe go to different places, and the technology is already on par. Do you feel anything beyond which you feel like in your thoughts, futuristic or?
I'll let the lady answer this one.
Yeah, that they can enhance and incorporate all the stuff that, for example, we can talk about our education. So beyond that, for example, in computer science, as a faculty of, as a lecturer of computer science, we are having some natural inspired algorithms, right? So we can try to extend our teaching methodology and how we can incorporate, how we can take that concepts to explain with a neural, for example, neural network concepts or some SAM algorithm, optimization algorithm, and Ant-Connolly algorithm. The students, they cannot understand it exactly, right? So beyond this, beyond the normal teaching, so we can get their help and we can develop. I think, yeah, we can, yeah, I'm just closely to a person. So we can develop something beyond the normal thing. Yeah. with the help
I have a
of this.
question, if I may, to you. So my son is teaching, he's using Python, he's using all this C++, C#, and extrapolate a little bit, and this maybe is a wider question. What happens 5 years, even now, let's say GPT-8, when you don't have to program, and what would
We don't have
be?
to program today. We're actively working on a number of projects where we're trying to convert ancient code to new code. There's a number of active projects that are going on at IBM. That's one of the pillars of generative AI in the space of, taking large private institutions, government institutions, and moving them across. But AGI, artificial general intelligence. So today we have 200 and about 1.8 trillion parameters in GPT-4, allegedly according to a leak. So they leaked the architecture of GPT-4. The brain is about 100 trillion neuron connections. So we're growing at a rate where by about 2028, 2029, we will have technically a brain with enough connection to, an artificial brain with enough connections to be at the same level of complexity as a human. So we'll have artificial general intelligence at some point. We have very specific general intelligence today. In a sense, if you look at it from a black box perspective, there's various tests like Turing and white test and whatever. But if you look from the outside in and you ask questions of it, if this passes the Turing test today, right, GPT-4 and its equivalents like Cohere and Anthropic, there's a number I know because I work with all of them. But in 5 years' time, we will have. There's a paper, I think, there was a very good research work on this by Andreessen Horowitz. Mark Andreessen is the guy who he started Netscape. Back when I was a student, we used to have this thing called the Mosaic browser, and then he invented Netscape, and then all that went off, and then it got bought by my son, and then he created a venture capital firm. So Andreessen Horowitz came up with a very good report, which I'll share with you. But that talks about how we're going from very specific intelligences to more general intelligences. So I think that's coming, and that's probably coming faster than you think, right? So I think that's something we need to be prepared for. Not only in the field of education, but every field, but in the field of education, I think that's going to hopefully change the dynamic that you talked about.
But I'm worried. Sorry, I would like to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. That's all right. Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about having more connections on your brain, and it's going to tally up with the human brain at some point. I think, I mean, on the way, so you gotta build stuff on top of it, isn't it? So that's something.
There's an architecture. So we've been talking a lot about Meta. So the chief data scientist in Meta, Yann LeCun, who's one of the fathers of AI, and I think he invented one of the most important pillars of it. I've forgotten, but he is now creating an architecture. So what we call the transformer network. So this basic idea, imagine this is like the building block of the brain, right? It's kind of like the kind of neuron construct. The transformer is kind of the neuron construct. He's thinking of a larger architecture, how this fits together. So I think there's some work that's been thought through by these kind of really top people. Meta is taking a huge lead. Llama 2 is Meta as well. So I think that's starting to happen, and that's quite exciting and interesting. But they will be self-forming structures. And yeah, I mean, the answers we don't know.
Yeah,
The answer is just getting really,
so
really
I'm
exciting.
going, sorry to interrupt. First of all, it's fascinating. I could listen to you, and you know a lot about much more than I. But see, as a human, although I'm a geek and engineer, I think the biggest challenge we have here is, as humans, is the social aspect. Because I'm worried. I'll be honest. I wrote a book about this, and I predicted that it would take 8 years. But now I revised my prediction. Predictions are wrong always. So I think it's more like 24 months. I think we see parts of, and the problem is that we are not ready for this, right? And this will have such a change. I mean, the whole purpose of us and life will change dramatically. What defines a person in Sweden? Like, I grew up in a society where I had to work every day to earn self-respect, right, and have a clear purpose. This will be questioned in the next 4 years. And if we as society, and also I am obviously live in US, run a company, so I should be a super capitalist, right? Although I was a member of the Communist Party when I was there for a while. But I think we really need to think through, because the capitalist structure will not,
the end of capitalism.
we will have people heads on stakes here in the street of politicians and burning tires. This happens very, very fast.
The thing is,
sorry to.
Oh, sorry, apologies. I'm just going to say it, but I just wanted to add to that point. I think the concepts of capitalism and communism are going to be irrelevant because the whole purpose of these systems is to allocate resources in some way.
Exactly.
But when you have systems like AI that can create and affect free stuff, right, at very zero marginal cost, it's going to change the entire society, right? It's completely different. But going back to the technology for a second, the really interesting thing, going back to some of the concepts we talked about, like metaverse and machine learning, is when very smart models are talking to digital twins, they're talking to agents. Agents are kind of this idea of how you chain these models together. That level of organization we haven't even conceived yet. And that's coming as well. This is beyond intelligence in the kind of, we're biological entities, right? We've got so much limits of understanding. When you have this scale at that level, the only thing that's limiting it is the amount of energy of the planet and the amount of silicon you can create to process. But that level of organization, we don't even understand yet. And we can't even comprehend that, I think. So it's a little bit of a story.
So no, that was really useful and mindful of the time. So I think fantastic conversations. So based on Dan and Faisal's most recent comments in relation to impact on society and impact that we can't even envisage at this stage, could I ask each of you to say, what can we as a university do about it? How can we support our students? And I'll start off with you, Rebecca.
Yeah. Okay. Beyond this technology, what are the things we have discussed now about augmented reality, maybe extended reality or virtual reality? We can support the students of incorporating the normal traditional system into practicing how we can practice that. For example, if a student is studying about the history, we can give some, they can learn, they are able to learn the civilization. And if a medical student can learn their, that is operation practice, practicing in the virtual mode. And we can, as a researchers, we can collaborate with the shared space, and also, yeah, we can support in this way. And also, we can make a field trip, like for school students. We can give this environment, this technology for the virtual field trip. And yeah, there are so many benefits for different domain students, or like for computer science people, because what I mentioned earlier, right? So because we are using so many natural inspired algorithm. So the students are not easily understand with the theoretical part. So if you're explaining with a demonstration like this kind of technology, AR technology or augmented reality technology, the student may understand, take the insightful concept of this thing. They are able to understand. And yeah, this is the way we can support us. We can extend this. We can support to the students, society, and education sector.
So really creating that immersive
experience. And there are still what this Dr. Kyle represented, that beyond this, everything is technology. Beyond the technology, what we could make it in a better way. Means there are so many things that are still unrevealed things are there. Okay, so our search will be in that. Okay, so for example, the electricity. Okay, there are some research is going on. So we can reduce the time, and carbon monoxide, we can reduce the level. So there is a solution, but still we are struggling. So we have to go in that way to search that unrevealed source. So that is my best opinion towards this.
Fantastic. I need to get you to talk to all of our other academics as well. Thank you, Rebecca. Glad.
No, I pass.
Yeah, I think I'll add on to Rebecca's comments. I mean, for us, going forward with the data science program, right? So sometimes we're gonna explain things like, different machine learning algorithms with help of 3D spatial AI. It would be really good for us to have that, we explain things in a 3D or 4D or multi-dimensional concepts, but without actually getting that insight of it, but having this spatial environment for them to adjust and see how they are. We have data sets there, but if you could see it really on actual device, so that's the data science side of it. But if you talk about, cybersecurity, when you want to configure a lab with a cybersecurity space, and they can actually see it rather than we talk about layer 3, layer 1, layer 5 presentation layer, but they can actually go and physically see the device, and they can ask the questions, and it would be really helpful not only for the students as well as for the lecturers to learn this stuff and explain it in a simpler way. Otherwise, you have to spend thousands of minutes to explain simple layer 3 communication protocol. But if you have that concept around us with a special AI with some sort of a headset or a phone, so we can easily show them this is what exactly happening in there. So it would be good for students and for the lecturers as well.
Thank you, Isaac.
Well, I'd say get down to stuff and get into spatial AI. I'd say create a sense of competency. I think when you said at the beginning, you're agile. I think that's your advantage. So I think higher education is going to be disrupted.
Yeah.
So you don't have this model of teachers and learners anymore. You have partners there. That's exactly the right word. So I think, why don't you try to build that platform using Dan's tech to bring these communities together and recreate how learning is done in the future. And this may be the place you can do it, because if you go to I'm Imperial, I'm ex-Imperial, right? You mentioned Imperial College. They will have and I've worked with Imperial at AWS, done a number of tech and Oxford and others as well. They have their own way of thinking, right? They have a very classical sense, because Oxford is 1,000 years old or something, right? But a new university, a new institution can generate new ideas. So why don't you try to do some of these? I mean, this from the sociological perspective, try to create a system where knowledge is more decentralized and give it to the edge. And I think that's very possible. I don't see why that can't work. And that would be very interesting, and that will be very different from what other universities do.
And do you feel we can do that at pace?
Yeah, I mean, everything I want to do is at pace. So I would say, coming from Amazon, we have various Amazonian principles. One of them is fail fast.
Yeah.
So fail fast, right?
This is what we
Execute,
do.
try, fail fast, right? There's nothing wrong with failure, right? Elon Musk is in throwing rockets into the air because he failed 50, 60 times. Failure is more important than success.
Yep.
So that's the greatest teacher. So absolutely.
That's great. I'm really pleased that you're on a advisory board.
I only have one word, and it's interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
That's my only word, and I
That's
think
one of our
if we can
USPs.
get, and this is not only about disciplines, about different people with different thoughts.
Yeah.
That's where this can, because if we find a site solution that is kind of tilted on the tech side or on any side, right? We have to kind of, so I think this type of forum is great, and I think I can see there's a hunger. The little I see here in London, there's a hunger for this, and nobody's satisfied. So if you can have that vision and do it, we'll be here to help. And I think there's a lot of other.
I think the access of this university to South Asia and Africa is exactly, there's a bigger place. It's not just London. I think this is people coming from developing, or we shouldn't call it developing. We're coming from
Global South. I love that.
I don't even like some of these are pejorative terms, but from areas where there's huge potential.
Yeah.
And I think that's a difference as well. So I think that's kind of interesting. The next, as you said, Einsteins are not going to be in London or Sweden, unfortunately.
So we got to give it away, though. Still, okay.
Fantastic, wonderful. Any other final questions for our panel? Well, that was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. And I believe we're moving to the interactive demo session now. So thank you.